Good journey, everyone. I got to turn on my camera, right? Don't I? Good journey. I am the Crucial Crew member Jay. Welcome to Space Oats Alive. And this is going to be you know how I am. I'm always very unscripted, right? This one, crazy unscripted because I really hadn't had any time to really think about anything, do anything. Today was a really hectic today for a day off for me, but, I'll explain why. We'll talk about it a little bit. Um, got hat head, everything. It's been nuts. I might just put that hat back on, but it's just really tight. So, but anyway, um, yeah, pretty unique hat too. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, we're gonna get going. We got a lot to talk about and a little time to be able to do it. So Tabuite, right? Let's start off with a little bit of today in Star Wars. Why don't we? We're going to go back a little bit of time in history, something that I don't know if most of you, so I know some of you that watch are not, weren't around when this actually came out, but maybe you have gone back and you've watched it a little bit, but who knows if that's the case. But anyway, back to 1986. 1986. So some of my viewers may not have been around in 1986, but yeah, we have something that came out in 1986, which was the all new Ewoks. Debuted the Ewoks cartoon second season. So which was the last season, the second and the last season, a little bit more geared toward kids, I guess. Like than the first season, it wasn't as, I don't know. I love the first season. The first season was great. I don't know what they were trying to do with the second season, but it ended up ultimately fizzling out, fading away, and we were back to no Star Wars on TV. But basically, Ewoks and droids together debuted the year before, and or had a first season together, and then droids went away only after one season. Ewoks continued on. So, but I'm a fan of watching these. They're great. They're the original Star Wars kids show. Now we have Star Wars Jedi Adventures, which is great for kids, and it it's it's unbelievably cool. But Ewoks were the thing at the time. Return of the Jedi, all that good stuff, and we had some fun stories with Wicket and all the other Ewoks that we had action figures of. Some of which I have right back here with my Ewok playset. Original, yes, mine from way back when. I was a huge fan of that. That was one of my favorite toys to play with. And yeah, so I love the Ewoks. I have lots of Ewok toys and big fan of the Ewoks. So again, Return of the Jedi was the first movie I saw in theaters. If you want to see the first, this is the first action figure that I actually purchased, or actually I got as a kid. This was him. Um, this is my Tebow. This is all that's left of him. He's only still got his little horn. No more bow. No more headdress. No more hatchet. Actually, yeah, it wasn't a bow. It was a hatchet. No more headdress. No more hatchet. Unfortunately, I lost the hatchet almost immediately, and then I think it was the hatchet I lost immediately. One, either the hat or the hood or the hatchet. I almost lost immediately. Um, and then one of my other favorite things for Return of the Jedi is my little Max Rebo stuffed animal, which I actually still have yet to unpack. My Star Wars Celebration trio pack from the Max Rebo band. So I still have yet to unpack that. It's in the box, like right there. I've just not opened it yet. No time. Which is why I'm very unscripted today. Um, Basically, talking about that a little bit. So I went over to Star Cruiser today. I had the opportunity to be able to go over there and say another goodbye to everyone, and just kind of talk to the remainder of the crew and just give a little bit of positivity. So they're going through a really tough time. It's the last month for them. Uh, I can't imagine how I'd be feeling if I was still there. Um, breaks my heart every day that it's not going to be there anymore, and I just almost can't think about it. But yeah, so just going over there and giving some positivity today. So just telling them that there is life outside of Star Cruiser. They can continue to go on and make a difference wherever their location is going to be that they go to. Um, and there's plenty of Star Cruiser crew members around, and there's people that have gone. Like every time I go to the parks, I'm working. I run into somebody that either worked at Star Cruiser that has been on the Star Cruiser, so it's a conversation starter, and it fills the void. It really does. So basically, a very nice time to be able to visit them this week and talk to them about that, which was a lot of fun. It was great to see everybody again. I didn't get to go on the ship, boo hoo hoo, but it would have been nice to be able to go on the ship one last time. But I got to pick up my hat, my Star Cruiser hat. So they gave us some extra merch that we could purchase. And this is the one of the hats. It's Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, and on the back it says "May the stars light your way." So love this hat. I will wear it a lot, I'm sure, as I am a hat person. So, but it was good to go over there. It was good to see everybody. Good to reconnect with a lot of us that were on the opening team and that have now left and gone to some other areas, and then also to see the ones that are still there and be able to talk to them again. So, a lot of fun to be over there. So, yeah, so a lot of things going on. No Sabine this week on Ahsoka. How about that? That was kind of a lull this week, not seeing Sabine. But what a great episode of Ahsoka. So I guess we're talking about Ahsoka, aren't we? Um, it's been amazing. So it was the longest episode yet, besides the two that were together, because that was the first two. They were back to back. But the longest two together, the longest Soul episode so far. And, we did get a lot of Chopper this time. That was a lot of fun. Just Chopper and Jason Syndulla interacting. That was cool, which was a lot of fun to watch. So, but yeah, after that Fallen Jedi episode last week, so a lot of things happened in that episode, left us with wondering what was going on with the World Between Worlds, and still kind of not really sure about that, right? With what happened there. So um, I think I have an idea of what really took place, but your thoughts on that when we get to that, we'll talk about it. We're going to go through the episode. Um, Carson Teva, Captain Teva, it was good to see him kind of back again. And, some of the things he said were pretty interesting this week's episode. So pretty cool to hear some of those things happen, some Easter eggs coming out of his mouth. So, and just his reactions to some of the things that were said were priceless. He's such a great character. I love him as a side character. Yeah, so let's just talk about Ahsoka. Why don't we? Let's talk about how this episode stacked up. What did you feel? Were you a fan of this episode? Were you not a fan of this episode? So, um, I certainly was. I think that this is so. I was talking about this with somebody else. So somebody said that they thought it was the best episode so far. I preferred last week's episode, honestly, a little bit better. Last week's episode has been my favorite so far. This week episode is right up there. Um, but there was a couple things in this episode that really just piqued my interest. Specifically, this whole scenario going on in the World Between Worlds. So, last we saw Ahsoka fighting Baylan Skull, which, again, no bad guys in this episode. This is all just story for really Ahsoka's path, which is so cool. This is like a really good Ahsoka episode. Ahsoka's no Sabine, no nothing. Yeah, Hera was there, Jason was there, there was other side characters around, but really it was all more focused on Ahsoka. Finding Ahsoka, where is Ahsoka, what's going on with Ahsoka, all of that. So we basically start off the episode, on that monument area of Cetos, with the ghost landing there. And basically Hera kind of just trying to figure out what's going on. You see the X-Wings, the ones that, which I got to watch last week's episode again because it almost seemed like there was 5 X-Wings. I thought 3 were taken out, so that would have left 2. But then there was 3 in this episode. So maybe there was another one so don't know if that was a continuity thing, but maybe I just missed something and I didn't see something right last week. But Hera kind of coming out on the planet, not knowing really what happened. Obviously, she knows that the hyperspace ring has jumped into hyperspace, so she's just trying to basically figure out who's left. Who's left? Where's Ahsoka? Where's Sabine? What's going on here? So she lands. She comes out of the shuttle. Jason and Chopper kind of come out. He's like, asking permission. Can he come out of the ship? And she basically just says as long as he's close to Chopper, which is so great. It's so great to see them kind of like buddying together. Chopper looks like a whole new droid when he's like standing or when he's rolling besides Jason. So really cool to see Chopper just rolling around there. Hera, still kind of just not really knowing what's going on. She ends up coming across Huang. Huang basically came to the spot where Sabine and Ahsoka were. I don't know like how he knows that Ahsoka is possibly over the edge of the cliff, but he is kind of like looking over the cliff. He's holding Sabine's helmet, so I don't know if he's just assuming that maybe they're both down there or what he feels or thinks as a droid. So, but one of the things he did says is he tells them that they should have stayed together. He told them to stay together. So he's, for a droid, it's one of those things where it's awesome to see a droid's emotional when you know that a droid's kind of shouldn't really have emotion, but it's cool to like see that borderline of droids like feeling, which is really cool. And Huang, just such a great character, and again, loved him this episode. I loved his small little bits, the things that he said, the conversations. We did have this episode again did not drop with a title on the main Disney Plus screen. But then as you get through that first break of the story, it does say Part 5, Shadow Warrior. So Shadow Warrior, not really sure who that is referencing, if it's Anakin or Ahsoka. So that's kind of a mystery of what the title is alluding to, in my opinion. I really haven't really given much thought to it yet. But yeah, so we see Anakin and Ahsoka. Anakin kind of Revenge of the Sith diving into the dark side. So you can see it's actually Anakin. It's not Vader at this point. But basically Ahsoka wondering where she is. I mean, she kind of must realize she's in the world between worlds because she's been there before, but she doesn't really remember how she got there, which we don't really know how she got there, right? Anakin kind of just basically tells her that she lost, so that's pretty funny. Kind of going back to that whole master-apprentice relationship that they had, kind of almost taking jabs at each other, which is fun to see. And basically that he's surprised to see her, which is interesting. Again, don't really know how this whole came to be, them connecting in the world between worlds. He tells her that he's basically going to be completing her training and basically giving her, saying that sometimes you have to make a choice between life and death. And he ignites his lightsaber. She says, "I will not fight you," and then he says he's heard that before, which is callback to Return of the Jedi, right? So this is the first instance of this segment where you pretty much kind of got to think that Anakin's real here, right? It's not just in Ahsoka's mind, because Anakin does reference his battle with Luke, so which Ahsoka wouldn't really know any of that. So why would she have, heard that in her mind? And then they start to fight, which is cool. I mean, it's an awesome lightsaber fight. Don't get me wrong, but I liked the lightsaber battle between Ahsoka and Balin last week a lot better. We kind of flash back to basically the search for Ahsoka and Sabine again. They're Hera basically using kind of like the same kind of tool that like Han used on Hoth, if you remember, which is pretty cool callback to that. But Carson shows up. Basically, he gives a nod to Leia. So Leia's kind of helping them out, saying Senator Organa, which is interesting that he uses the phrase Senator Organa, because I'm wondering what she's a senator of. I can't remember if that was in the books or not, if it says what she's a senator of at this point in time. But so Leia covering for Hera, which is pretty cool, as far as why she's out there on Cetos. So Jason then kind of calls Hera over to the rocks because he says he can hear lightsabers. So again, this is something that really, this is the second instance where I'm feeling that this isn't just something that was in Hera's head. This is something real. This is an actual Anakin, Ahsoka. That's right. They were. Yep. Thank you, Patrick. That's what I was thinking in my mind. I couldn't remember if that was in one of the Legends books or one of the current canon books, but I'm pretty sure it was in Bloodlines. Was it Bloodlines? Maybe that was the book where I read where it mentioned that, and was a senator for them. Yeah, I think that was. Yeah, that would be the case. Thank you for joining, Patrick, by the way. But so Jason, this is the second instance in the episode where I'm feeling that this was actually a communal meet between Anakin and Ahsoka because Jason can hear it. And it's interesting that Hera can hear it as well, which is, there's always talk, and there's been more and more talk, especially with Sabine, this season, that who has the Force and who doesn't. Everybody has the potential, right? It's just not everybody learns how to connect with the Force, and Hera actually is connecting, I'm guessing here. So it's really cool to actually see that. Now, I love Carson at this moment because he's kind of confused, not knowing what the heck is going on. And then Huang basically explains, and we get the Kanan reference here, Kanan Jarrus, that Jason Syndulla is Kanan Jarrus' son. He's the son of a Jedi, which Carson okay, whatever, kind of deal, which is pretty awesome. But I love that moment, and it's such a great moment. Jason kind of really showing his Force potential at this point in time, and the future possibly for him. Everyone can. Yep, yeah. Maybe Hera has some abilities, top-notch pilot, right? Yeah, she possibly, yeah. Everybody, the Force is everywhere, right? It's just how much your knowledge of the Force is how much abilities you have to be able to, and it also depends upon what abilities you have. And some of those abilities are connected in different ways. So maybe her piloting skills are brought about because of her connection with the Force, but she didn't maybe realize it was the Force. So yeah, pretty awesome. So maybe Jason due to be a really awesome Jedi if both of his parents have some connection to the Force, right? Kanan more so than Hera, but maybe we might see something with Hera as well. But we go back to the world between worlds. Ahsoka kind of feeling that she's got the best of Anakin, but then he just kind of destroys the bridge in the world between worlds, and they then kind of go through a portal, which again, not really sure how this is happening. A little bit different, the world between worlds here, but kind of sends her back in time to one of the first missions. Now, this was a little confusing for me. Where is he in the sequels? Disney is creating a bunch of Jedi. Right, that is true. That is true. Unless, it's sad to say, but you're curious to think that if all of them were on the temple and were killed by Kylo. But I don't think Grogu was on the temple because they've already kind of shown the fact that Grogu is with Mando now, so I don't think he's going back with Luke to train. But yeah, now we have that question of Jason. Where did Jason end up? Was Jason in the temple at the time of the massacre? So yeah, a lot of interesting questions there, right? But so yeah, Ahsoka and Anakin kind of going back now, way back to the beginning when they first became Master and Padawan. And it looks to me like this is Ryloth. However, it's got to be a time period that we've never seen before in the Clone Wars episodes, and because the only episodes that I was connecting to Ryloth that Anakin and Ahsoka were on, it never showed us with Anakin and Ahsoka on the surface. The Ryloth story arc, Storm over Ryloth, was Anakin and Ahsoka in orbit around Ryloth, and they were basically trying to break through the planet to get supply lines through to the surface. That is where Ahsoka actually kind of failed her mission, which is kind of alluded to here, that she's, feeling the loss of so many clones. So maybe they did go down to the surface after that space battle and were involved in some of the other battles, maybe because the other two story arcs were Obi-Wan's story with the clones, and then also Mesa's story with the clones. But Anakin and Ahsoka were not down on the surface for either of those episodes. So maybe they had their own battle that they were commanding, and that's this battle here. And we just never saw it in the Clone Wars episodes. But I love they just have Anakin in his Clone Wars gear. We're seeing lots of clones, which is, some of them having like the ARC Trooper uniforms, which is really cool. Lots of Twi'leks. It's really awesome. Like basically kind of seeing where, kind of going back in her training and seeing what Anakin is training her for. Again, I love the short episode from Tales of the Jedi where, he kind of furthers this a little bit and pushes her as far as her lightsaber training that, it can mean life or death. So this is kind of almost carrying off of that mini episode of one day she might have a choice where she has to survive, training her for war pretty much. So basically kind of going back to the beginning of that. And I love the end of the first flashback or send back to the Clone Wars where Anakin kind of walks into battle. And then you see that blip, how Ahsoka's seeing him when he's igniting that lightsaber. And it flashes as Vader. Because, now she knows him as what he's become. And she's maybe thinking back to everything that she's trained him on and trying to figure out if it was the right training that she was given or not. Um, Kind of battling with what kind of training was she giving Sabine? Was she able to train properly or not? How she was going to train? And but yeah, that one of my favorite scenes in this episode literally was when he's walking away and towards that fire, clones beside him, and it just flashes to Vader, which is such a great shot. Man, one of my favorite shots of the whole episode. Um, yeah, pretty amazing. So again, yeah, taking us back to around the season one time, not long after Ahsoka became Anakin's apprentice, and seeing a story within a story because it's around that time, but we've never seen that even in animated form. So it's not a redo of any scene. It's kind of stuck in there somewhere. So um, we go back to kind of the search for Ahsoka and Sabine. The back and forth was cool. It kind of gave a break from the weightiness of it and gave it a little bit more lightheartedness. Um, but yeah, just seeing like Carson Teva, just all in on really supporting Hera, which is pretty awesome. Um, Even though they're kind of like at their limits of their fuel and so forth, just following, Hera, believing in her, believing in Ahsoka, believing in Sabine and their path, and believing in her as a general, because she's adamant that they're here to stop Thrawn, and Teva, is kind of putting his career on the line, following her orders, knowing that it's wasn't authorized, but still going into the fire with her, which is pretty amazing. And yeah, it's a lot of like weighted moments here in this film, in this episode. Just hearing the conversations and the choices that are made, really defining who these characters are and where they're going. So it's pretty awesome. Huang and Sabine. I just love some of the shots here in this episode, especially the shots in the cockpit from behind, seeing the water and their conversations back and forth, Sabine and Huang, which is really cool. We've not really heard them speak too much, which is pretty awesome to actually have them kind of talking back and forth a little bit. Um, the second kind of flashback of the World Between Worlds is the Siege of Mandalore time period, and a lot of cool stuff happening there. We get to see the Death Commandos, which is super cool. First time seeing them live, with that cool helmet that kind of reminiscent of their following of Maul. It would have been kind of cool to see a little bit of Flash with Maul. The Ahsoka, you can definitely tell that she's older, but I would have liked to have seen some little bit of sense of like aging on her part here, because this is 3 years later, and besides the costume change and the lightsaber change and her saber style changing, she looked the same age. Um, and from the cart, like if you look at the animated series, she's definitely grown older. You can see a little bit of different in her face and her height and so forth, and not really much shows that in this episode. But we do get a cameo from Tamora Morrison back as the voice of Rex, so which is really cool to see Rex on live, giving us a little bit of maybe hope that we'll see him somewhere at some point in time. Maybe they'll do live action Clone Wars episodes. I don't know. Maybe they'll do a standalone Clone Wars movie. Who knows? But Anakin coming basically into this scenario, this point in time, the Siege of Mandalore, not knowing this one because he was not there. This was after they parted ways. We knew the parallels of where this one took place in season 5 of Clone Wars with Revenge of the Sith. So everything that was kind of going on with Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, which is why he's in his Revenge of the Sith basically costume, him basically falling to the dark side in this episode while Ahsoka is battling the Siege of Mandalore. So Anakin is basically at this point in time confronting Palpatine, Sidious, and then basically becoming Darth Vader, falling to the dark side. And again, going back, continuing that training of where it all comes down to, going back to the decision of life or death put before her, and then he ignites the red lightsaber. Basically signifying at this point in time of her life, he had already chosen his path. And now he's basically kind of questioning her path. Where is she going? Is she getting drawn to the dark side? Is she, because remember that last episode with her with the fight with Balin? She used a lot of dark side techniques in her. There was a lot of anger in that battle. So maybe Anakin's basically trying to ask her which path is she choosing. There was a moment where he talked about her legacy, and then he said that she's following in the legacy of his masters, but he never really says which masters. He's almost still giving her this choice. Is she following in the path of his masters from the dark side? Darth Plagueis to Sidious to him, or his other masters being Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan to Anakin. But a really intense fight here, which Anakin does come out on top, and then basically, again, says to him that she's choosing life. And then she throws his lightsaber away. And then that's when he basically comes back to being Anakin Skywalker in this vision. So, or this meeting. So my thought process is that this is definitely Anakin Skywalker. He's testing her. He wants to see which path she is choosing. And he pretty much realizes that has been stronger than he was to make that better choice. And I love the kind of the smile at the end that he gives her, kind of almost being proud of her, in this sense, is how I'm feeling. So, saying there's hope for you yet. So I love that. I really do. He then disappears. So more Anakin? I think so. I think we're going to get more Anakin. I don't think maybe until the last episode we'll see Anakin again, but I do feel that there's going to be another communication of Ahsoka and Anakin. I almost feel that there has to be, because now that she knows that she can communicate with him in some way or another, she's going to actually try. And then that's when maybe there's going to be the beginnings of like conversations of what happened. Because still there's a lot of questions from her. She knows he became Vader, but now she's seeing him good again. So I'm sure there's a lot of questions there. It was interesting the way that the world between worlds kind of dissolved around her, and then she ended up back in the water. So again, how she got into the world between worlds is a question that we have yet to kind of answer there. And I don't know when that will be answered or how it will be answered. But that is definitely a question. By the way, Jason's the one that kind of found her. He almost was able to reach out and locate where she was in the waters, and then the X-wing pilots kind of, jumped down and rescued her, got her back on the Ghost. Um, you see Ahsoka without her any headband or anything for the first time. That was kind of interesting to see. Uh, her kind of almost stripped down and not have anything on her like the headdress or anything, which is interesting to be able to see. Um, she kind of knows she's reaching out. She's kind of remembers that she was there with Anakin. Um, Jason immediately sensing that she was alive, which is really cool that they got her. But definitely pretty strong with the Force with their connections, which is so awesome. Ahsoka, thanking Jason, kind of owing him thanks for finding her, which is really cool. Hera basically telling Ahsoka was him that was able to hear. He actually wanted to know from Ahsoka who she was fighting as far as the lightsabers. They kind of just not being ready for that story, I guess. So I love the little exchange between Huang and Jason when, go see the starship. He's already seen a starship, well, not a Jedi starship. And then um, Huang basically saying he could show him the training room. And he's like, can, you train with me? And he's like, no. And it's like, do you know how to put a lightsaber? Yes. Will you show me how? No. So I love that little moment between Jason and Huang as well. So Ahsoka showing a little bit also of the kind of the Ahsoka white outfit in the end here of this episode, which is pretty cool. We saw that at the end of Clone Wars, so I guess this is just an alternate outfit that she has, um, which is pretty awesome to be able to see. So, and then trying to figure out how to get to Sabine. Where is Sabine? Which was the question at the end of this episode. Still, Hera kind of asking about that. Ahsoka uses that Force sense echo again, kind of like that she did on Lothal with the battle. Trying to go through what happened with the battle. She's doing this again to figure out maybe what happened to Sabine, hearing the voices, the conversations that occurred after her fall off the cliff. Realizing that Sabine actually made the choice to go with Balin to go find Ezra for her benefit, but really, the whole overall was to go get Thrawn for Balin. And then how they were going to follow, which Ahsoka then realizes the Purgle. The Purgle that are there, she kind of has this sense that maybe the Purgle can help, especially kind of remembering that the Purgle were involved with Ezra and Thrawn being taken away from Lothal. So if she can connect with the Purgle in some way similar to the way Ezra did, maybe they can get taken to the same point in the other galaxy. So yeah, then they kind of fly up to the Purgle. The Alliance fleet is coming in. They kind of need a distraction. Carson and the other X-Wing pilots kind of go and make that distraction, which is a fun little side point of reference, the mission and, who's authorized and that it's a secret mission and so forth. And it's a fun, like, little way of kind of distracting the Alliance fleet while Ahsoka, Hera, and Jason and Huang are trying to get the Purgle's attention. They come across the really giant Purgle. Ahsoka goes out. She connects with it. They actually fly inside of its mouth, which is interesting. And then, yeah, they kind of come out of the atmosphere. Carson Teva basically laid out the whole story to the Alliance fleet, the New Republic fleet, and then they see all the Purrgil come out, and then the Purrgil jump to hyperspace with Ahsoka and Huyang. So, unfortunately, Hera, Jason do not make the journey, which they're okay with. Jason kind of too young to go to another galaxy at this point in time, as Hera says. And I'm guessing next week we're going to get to that other galaxy, and we're going to see where Ahsoka ends up. So, looking forward to it. But a great episode. I can't imagine seeing this in the theaters. I know a lot of people got to see it in the theaters. I was hopeful that I was going to be able to see it in the theaters, and I got sent the wrong tickets. Such is life. But we'll be looking forward to next episode, and hopefully we'll get some Thrawn next episode. We'll have to find out. With the last couple of minutes, let's kind of go through some other things that have been released. We've got some other things that have come out. I don't know if anybody saw the new Lego Star Wars UCS Venator class Republic Attack Cruiser is going to be released in October. If you're a Lego person, October 1st, only on Lego.com and Lego stores. Over 5,000 pieces, measuring about 1.5 inches high and 43 inches long. That's a big Lego set. Comes with Captain Rex, Admiral Yularen, which is really awesome. And yeah, I think it ends up, I think it's about $650 when I looked it up. But if you're a big Lego person, I'm glad I'm not, because I really don't have $650 to be throwing out there. But there's also a exclusive preview on StarWars.com of Marvel's Star Wars Dark Droids D Squad. So if you've been looking forward to this comic, you can go look and read a preview of that. So, and then last but not least, it is time for a crucial character pick of the month. I was, again, going back and wanted to decide if I was going to do, I still haven't done anything from Solo yet. I still haven't kind of picked a Solo character yet. I kind of went back, and I was also thinking about Star Wars Resistance, because I haven't picked, and we've made references to Resistance in Ahsoka with some of the characters. But I ultimately chose to go with the Mandalorian. And one of my favorite characters, side characters of the Mandalorian, starting out right from episode 1, and was sad to see him go, but then realized he did end up coming back, which was awesome. And then we didn't see him again for a while. But then we got him in season 3. So, and that would be IG-11. IG-11, my crucial character pick for The Mandalorian. I mean, besides The Mandalorian, I think he's very crucial to the story. I mean, from the very beginning, would Mandalorian even have gotten to Grogu without IG-11's help? Even though in the end he was going to assassinate Grogu, and he got a bullet in his head. IG-11, amazing. And Taika Waititi voicing IG-11. Taika Waititi also directing some of the episodes of The Mandalorian, but was really awesome to be able to. He's just such a great character, and we always wanted to see an IG unit fight, and we finally got it on live screen. So that was one reason why The Mandalorian episode 1 of season 1 is one of my favorite episodes to watch, because of that end scene with IG-11. You know, again, we thought he was gone, and then we got to the end of season 1 when Mandalorian is going to seek for assistance from other people that he's come across the way, and he goes back and enlists the help of Keel, And he comes across IG-11, which Creel basically says that he's reprogrammed, and he ends up being essentially a babysitter. But he also still has some amazing abilities to battle as well. So, and we see that happen. We see him protecting Grogu. We see him flying in on that speeder bike at the end, and just, again, amazing seeing him in battle formation as he's flying through the streets of Navarro. Helping out in the end, and then basically sacrificing his life to pave the way for them to escape Navarro. And again, thinking that we're not going to see him again. So that's twice he saved Mandalorian. In the beginning of the episode and the end of the episode. And then comes back again and becomes kind of like transportation for Grogu, which is pretty wild. Not what I thought was going to happen, but doesn't really have his own voice at this time. He's basically controlled by Grogu, but still, just to see IG-11 back in any form or another is a lot of fun. So, yeah, IG-11 definitely my crucial character pick of The Mandalorian. So, but that is basically it for this week. I hope everybody enjoyed Ahsoka. Hope everybody enjoyed that crucial character pick of mine. I am going to sign off for tonight. It's been a long day. It's been a really long day. So I want to kind of make this kind of an early night tonight and say, see you later. Thank you for joining to Patrick, who joined me tonight. Thank you all for watching this a little bit later. I am the Crucial Crew member, Jay. I do this right now every Wednesday night, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow me on Instagram, the Crucial Crew member, where I do live stream posts every Thursday through Monday, today in Star Wars, at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And yeah, so I think that's about it. Until next time, watch some Star Wars, listen to some Star Wars, play some Star Wars, read some Star Wars. But most importantly, may the stars light your way. Have a great night, everyone.